Hey everybody, this is Edwin, the Magic Engineer again, and I just wanted to make a quick video and talk about the topic of the reserve list and the hot topic everyone's discussing right now about the recent StarCityGames price increase for things like revised Underground Seas and a couple of the other dual lands that are associated with it. So there's a lot of people out there that have felt for a long time that the reserve list needs to go away. And they felt that Magic the Gathering is all about the players, not about the collectors at all. And they very much hate the fact that the reserve list is actually there. And the first thing I wanted to mention is everybody honestly just calm down a little bit. Remember that we're all just playing a game here. This isn't like a real serious thing. This isn't life or death. And a lot of people's anger and just I don't know, their hate that I see like online when everyone's discussing this stuff, it's really not very warranted. And please everybody, just have some respect when you're talking to other people. Go ahead and give your different opinions. Give me a different opinion if you want. Reply to this video if you want. Engage in the discussion, but come on guys, be respectful towards each other. Anyways, so I wanted to throw my 2 cents into this, and I know there's a lot of people who, like mostly the newer players, that feel the reserve list is outdated and needs to go away. But there's a couple points that everybody needs to keep in mind about it. Magic the Gathering was the very first collectible card game that ever existed. And back then, in those days, as the new thing comes into the world, collectible card games, people had no idea if it was going to be something that actually stuck around. And there was a lot of fear for what just happened with baseball cards recently. At that time, baseball cards had just gotten overprinted, especially in the 80s, and just demolished any of their value. And people that were collectors of Magic the Gathering, not as much players, and some of the players, of course, as well, but mostly the collectors, they were very worried because the prices of cards were going up. At the time, it was like, $50 for a Mox or something. And it was just, at that point, everyone's like, it's cardboard. The thought hadn't occurred to people that these trading cards could actually have like a lot of real value. And so there was a lot of concern about it. And yes, it was due to an uproar on why the reserve list actually came out. But it was with good reason. It wasn't completely invalid that it actually came up. And being able to take your position today and look back into the past and say that that's no longer valid, well, you really can't say that, because you wouldn't be here doing this today in this way that you actually are if that hadn't actually happened. Who knows if what happened was, if it succeeded despite itself, Magic, or did it only succeed because it had this special blend of collectability and playability. There was like a mysticism with it, along with there was just excitement about the value of the cards. No one can really say if Magic would have been today what it actually is if it wasn't that way then. Nobody can factually state that. It's all just opinions. And since it's all just opinions, take your opinion with a grain of salt, bite your tongue, and don't insult people when you're talking to them about it. Now, hopefully that's really clear, right? That we need to treat each other with a bit more respect when we're talking about this subject. But to the topic of the reserve list cards, there is something valid for somebody who's spent a lot of money to want to maintain the value in the thing they spent all this money on. And it's also valid that something that actually is rare and in demand is going to go up in value. Like I've been reminding people on forums, Magic is a collectible card game, right? That actually was the design from the beginning, collectible card game. It wasn't a collectible game, just a card game, just a CG. It was a collectible card game. The word collectible was there from the very beginning. It was designed to be something where certain cards are rare and you wouldn't really know what was in someone's deck and they would pop out and you could get excited about it. And there was a desire to collect them and there was a rarity aspect to it all. They built it into the game. The very fact that you have rare cards and uncommon cards and common cards, the fact that rarity exists shows you that collectability is built into the very essence of the game. If it was purely a player game, it would be like buying an expansion of Dominion. You go buy the new box, you get 10 of all the new cards, and you can go build whatever decks and play the game with it, because it's all about playing, and that's it, right? But that's not what Magic is about. Magic is a collectible card game The rarity has always been part of it, and it is not valid to say that collectors have no bearing whatsoever, and it's all about just the player aspect of it. So that opinion needs to stop. It is a mix of both, right? Both of them are valid. Now, having said that, it does matter that there's a lot of people that are kept out of formats, and I'm a vintage player. I've spent the money, I've been in it for years. I love vintage. I want my cards to retain their value, but I also want new players to come in, right? So I agree when the discussion goes in a way where people are talking about how there's people held out of vintage or legacy because they can't afford it. I also think that's a problem, and I want those people to come in as well. I don't want to see my collection value get destroyed. Therein lies the discussion. So let's all just agree that's a discussion. It's not a solved thing. No one's opinion is just like, here's the end of the story, right? Now, one thing I've wished for years that Wizards of the Coast would actually do, I've always kind of wished they would do something like make some official proxies, right? Like this is a proxy I just bought online from an eBay seller, and Moxie's proxies or something on eBay. And the guy did a great job, right? I mean, it looks like an actual, beta card, but you look at the back and there's no way that's not a Magic card, right? Here's a real Magic card. Like it's very different. It's obviously a proxy, right? So I kind of wish Wizards would do something kind of like this and maybe have a different back and write right on the front proxy, right? And at certain tournaments, they could say official proxies are allowed. And so players could go get these and they could play the game, but it's not going to destroy the value of the cards because it's not a quote-unquote legit Magic card, right? My personal opinion, and again, it's just an opinion, I think that would allow the players to actually play. And I think it would allow the collectors to still have collectability. Because the card is not a legit Magic card. It would have like a different back. It's not a real completely tournament legal thing. Maybe like only certain tournaments you could play in or something. But the point is it would allow people to come in and actually play and experience these formats and not have to just drain their wallet. You're not going to beat people because you can outspend them, right? I like that kind of thought. And my personal experience, I did either run or help run vintage tournaments in Oregon for a while. And what I always observed is the more people that came in to play the format when we allowed proxies, the more people got excited about vintage cards. And then the next week you'd show up and the guy'd be like, hey, look at this. This is my revised Demonic Tutor. I finally got one. And they'd be all excited about it. Or they'd say, here's my revised Soul Ring. Or I got a set of Swords to Plowshares or something. The point is, look what happens. They're playing proxy cards in a tournament. Then the next week they start showing up. It just creates its own desire for people to actually go get the original cards, right? Who doesn't? Or how many people don't look at like an actual beta dual land and think, wow, that thing looks awesome. I want that instead of the revised one. Yeah, of course they do, right? So my personal experience is that when proxy tournaments are allowed in an area, the desire for the actual vintage cards doesn't diminish. It actually goes up. That's what I've observed. That's just something I've seen time and time again. That is my experience over decades of playing Magic. So I do actually wish Wizards would get more behind actually doing proxy tournaments. But back to the point of the whole like StarCityGames raising their prices and everybody freaking out. You guys, it is a collectible card game. Rarity has always been part of it, right? Those cards have been out for 23 years now for a lot of them, right? For a good portion of that time, they were $20 each. There was a lot of time to pick them up. And so it's not like people didn't have ability to go get them. And the fact is, as more people play Magic, they are rare, right? And they are legit cards, and they are the best dual lands out there. And I understand completely that their value is going to start going up, right? The same thing happens in standard formats and stuff like that. And everybody who's starting to play Magic, when you begin, just get it in your head. It's not just a player game. It's a collectible card game. It always is, always was. It's always going to be a collectible card game, right? I wouldn't buy a house next to an airport and then get mad that I hear the sound of airplanes every once in a while. Like the airport was already there, right? I don't have a right to yell about it. Magic is a collectible card game. We'd love you to come play the game, but please don't come in and try to change it just because you have a personal opinion that it should be different. I mean, go ahead and give your opinion, right? talk to people about it, throw something onto the table. Discussion is great, right? I don't really personally want the game to be changed on that aspect, but let's engage in a discussion. But definitely don't come out and start saying you're a jerk and you're stupid or something like that. Not cool, guys. Just don't do that. Anyways, that's been, I don't know, my viewpoint on the topic. And I think StarCityGames, they're a business, and they see where the market's going. They've got every right to raise the price of their cards. And if StarCityGames is wrong, then nobody's going to buy them for $500, right? Everyone's going to go on eBay. And as far as I know at this second, you can go on eBay and pick up all kinds of underground Cs for $250, right? Even some mint ones or near mint for right around $300. So their $500 price doesn't seem justified so far. So I don't know. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense at this moment that they went that high. Maybe they see something I didn't. It's their business. It's their money. If they see it wrong, then that's how things will actually move. And for all the people complaining about it, you also have modern, right? You've got standard, you've got other formats. Look at what Old School did also. Old School said, here's a block of only these certain sets, build decks within these blocks and play it in this group. You can do that for any set, right? You could go out there and do that with like the Ravnica block or something and just have like a Ravnica block group of people that play Magic. And everything in there except for a few cards is honestly pretty cheap now because they're so far out of print, right? So anyways, that's my take on it. And thanks everybody for tuning in, and have a good day, everyone. Bye.